I share these places that people will never forget. People do forget. Right in front of me is a memorial to 24,000 troops with no known grave. They died in the lands and seas around here. 24,000, man. I'll read it to you. On the walls of this memorial are recorded the names of 24,000 soldiers and airmen of many races united in service to the British Crown, who gave their lives in Malaya and neighbouring lands and seas, and in the air over southern and eastern Asia and the Pacific, but to whom the fortune of war denied the customary rights accorded to their comrades in death. They died for all free men. And you have some different languages there. I won't pretend to know what they are. It'll be Chinese, Sanskrit, some other ones, but fucking hell, man, it's just... There's a lot of Indian troops on here. A lot of Singhs. 12th Frontier Force Regiment. A long time ago, I posted a video on Indian war graves, Muslim war graves. I know they're two different things, relax, but I'm currently in the cemetery, in Kranji Cemetery in Singapore, and I thought I'd show you the British Indian at the time cemetery. It's not a cemetery, it's a memorial to unknown soldiers, and it's got Singhs, Abduls, Muhammads, everyone on it, but just take a look. Punjab Regiment, Frontier Force Rifles, a lot of the Punjab Regiment. Sepoy is what the soldiers were called then. Punjab Regiment, Dogra Regiment, Royal Garwal Rifles. These guys have no known grave. There's 24,000 of them. They're British, there's Muslims, there's Hindus, there's Sikhs, there's Malaysians, there's Singaporeans, there's Chinese. It goes on forever, by the way. There's tons of them. Royal Engineers. It's very easy to forget the amount of different races and ethnicities that fought under the umbrella term of the British Crown. The British Empire had a lot of territory at the time, and a lot of people fought for the British in their own regiments. But we have here, there's a lot of things going on in the UK about racism and things like that. But these names, they don't seem very British to me, but they died for Britain. They died fighting for the British flag. What I just said, it might sound controversial, but I don't mean it like that. My point is that all these unknown Muhammads, Abduls, Singhs that are on here, they were flying planes for Britain. They were Bashir, I can't even pronounce the names, but there are tons of these different Indian regiments. At the time it was India. It's now Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India. At the time, it was British India, so I don't mean to offend anyone saying that. But my point is that there are thousands. There's a memorial to 24,000 troops that weren't from Britain, but fought for Britain. And now their ancestors live in Britain. I don't really see a problem with that if their fucking granddad died flying a fucking plane to defend British soldiers, so... There's a lot more of them than that died in captivity, but it's a memorial to a mass grave in the hospital where I'll go and show you. But it's very emotional here. Obviously it's emotional, but I'll keep going. Interestingly, I've just found a First World War section of the cemetery, but this is for British soldiers that were born in Singapore and lived in Singapore. Singapore was a British colony for a long time, but it's a very multicultural place even now. It's probably the nicest place I've been for multiculturalism. Everyone seems to get on, but right in front of me are soldiers that died in the First World War, and I just read a really sad one. I'll show you it wherever he's gone. Like, messages from families on the stones always get me, but what's really interested me here is, and I'm gonna have to Google these guys, there are German soldiers who died in the First World War. I'll look into it, but what I imagine is that they are some form of prisoner that was taken here at the time. But they might have been on a ship or something and got captured, but didn't expect to find German soldiers from the First World War in Singapore. So, ooh, my phone. These are Muslim graves. They're facing a different way. They'll be facing to Mecca. They fought for the British Indian Army. I've posted things about this before and it's gone controversial. They are Muslim, but they fought for the British Army in the Punjab Indian Regiment. Now that's confusing as hell. Now it's Pakistan and Punjab is a contested region. But at the time, the area of Punjab was under British control, and so they fought for the British Punjab Indian Regiment. But they are buried here, and there's hundreds of them, of Muslims that fought for the British. And they should be remembered like everybody else. And there's many names. Sher Khan, 14th Punjab Regiment, died aged 23. Taj Khan, Gul Jahan, Abdul Haq, Geba Khan, Abdul Hafiz, Ramat Khan, Sadiq Muhammad, Abdul Rahim, Muhammad Ibrahim, Muhammad Khan. They fought for Britain. Their names might not sound very British, but they fought to protect British hospitals. The area where these troops were stationed was protecting the Alexandra Hospital. They were tasked with protecting that hospital. They died defending a hospital filled with British soldiers. So they deserve my respect, your respect, everybody's respect. And there's one that I really like, the first one I just looked at. I want to know what his job was. His name is Malaya. He was a water carrier. He gave his life just transferring water. Like, what a fucking waste of life. It wasn't a waste of life here, actually. These people actually died for something. They died to protect. And they weren't aggressors, they weren't invaders. They were very under-equipped. So were the British soldiers and the Australians fighting in Singapore. But they didn't expect the Japanese invasion to happen how it did. And there is some interesting graves down there I'm going to go check out because there's some stones that look suspicious. I will just keep going through the cemetery and seeing everything I can and I'll go to every single one of them. The graves are very well kept, but no one really comes here. So I want to go and see as many as I can and say, I remember you, so thank you for your sacrifice. Right now, I am next to the Gurkhas. There's not many of them. How many have we got? 12, 13 Gurkhas. They're next to some Chinese troops as well. But these are Nepalese soldiers that died fighting for the British Army in Singapore. Remember them. Oh, and when the British government tried to take away pensions from Nepalese soldiers and veterans, you fucking pieces of shit. So many of them died and they're still in the British Army. But the Gurkhas we hold in high regard in Britain. But they died for us, so respect them. These stones, they're still men. These are Gurkhas too. Bloody phone. But, these guys fought in the Malaya campaign. They call it the Malaya Urgency. It was when Britain tried to maintain colonial dominance over Malaysia. When Malaya wanted independence and was becoming very communist, right after World War II, after all those horrific things, Britain went there again. But these are Nepalese soldiers that died, and it's also for the Korean War as well. So you've got the World War II Gurkhas over there, and a shitload of them died in Malaya. Thank you. It's a weird one to say thank you to, but they still gave their lives. So they were just doing what they were told, which is it's controversial saying that because many people did, but they were from Nepal. They died for Britain. The men whose names are recorded on these panels perished in captivity in February 1942 and lie buried here in one grave with 10 comrades whose names are not known. If you look at the names, most of those names are Chinese or of Chinese origin. Most people in Singapore, the highest ethnic population is Chinese people. So you can imagine how they suffered to the hands of the Japanese. They were soldiers fighting, the Chinese soldiers fighting for the British. They had a thing called the Singapore Chinese Anti-Japanese Volunteer Force. I don't know why I'm laughing at that, but when they were captured, the title of their badge was anti-Japanese. Of course they perished in captivity. But, at least they're remembered and they're still honoured. There's many of them honoured. People underestimate how many Indian soldiers fought for the British Empire. And it was Indians of all different races. And there were Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims. The Muslims weren't Indian. That region is now Pakistan. I understand that. At the time it was just called India under the British. But these are names of men who died fighting for Britain. And these soldiers died serving their country and lie buried elsewhere in Malaya. But they're still remembered on the panel amongst everyone else that they fought with. But the Indian army is the ones that defended Malaysia. And actually, funnily enough, this isn't Singapore, that's Malaysia. I'm in Singapore, that's Malaysia. That is where the Indian forces retreated. The British Indian forces. There was Australians, British, Indians. Everyone was a mixed bunch, but they retreated through there. And I just noticed the name, 4th Bombardier Grenadiers, Sepoy Sher Mohammed, of the Punjabi Regiment. People love arguing about this on TikTok, but these people fought and died. Just remember them. But yeah, fuck. I'll use this location to explain a bit of the battle as well, because everything you see around me, even though I'm standing in Singapore, I think behind me is Malaysia. So this is where the Australian and Indian troops put up a good defence for as long as they could as the Japanese pushed through. And Singapore's obviously an island, so you can't see it, but there's a big river, the Straits of Johor, that is through there. The Australians blew the bridges when they came across, and well, the British blew the bridges. And the British, fucking someone blew the bridges up. Doesn't matter who now, does it? But fucking dead. But they could see the Japanese preparing on the other side, and it's pretty close. They fought in this. The Battle of Kranji was the first battle, and that's where I am now, the Kranji War Cemetery. Yeah, thought I'd show you Malaysia from Singapore. Sadly, my phone is going to die, and my external charger, because I've been recording too much. But these Australian men, 11th of February 1942, age 24, HD Delaney. These guys, Bukit Timur, that was the date of Bukit Timur, the battlefield that we went to earlier, sorry. And it says buried near the spot. Buried near the spot meaning they don't know exactly where they are, but they're around here and they're memorialised here. But they're probably up on that hill that we were just at. Very sad, man. It gets overwhelming coming to these cemeteries because so many people died. And so many of them are young. Age 22, driver, Army Service Corps, PC Reed, Australian Imperial Force, buried near the spot. They're young boys, man, they just want to have a beer. Like, they're just like me. Like, I'm not a young boy anymore. I'd be one of the officers, maybe, one of the 33-year-olds. I'm 31, but these guys didn't want to die. Who does? But, I did have a little cry earlier because it just gets to you, man. Like, and in a sad way, these are the lucky ones that died. The ones that got captured, they had 4 years of just fucking hell. But, age 19, 13th of February, Private J Sharp. Thank you for your service, man. Peacefully sleeping in God's care. Duty nobly done, my son. It does get you, man. Cool. I've been to hundreds of war cemeteries, but when you see a 19-year-old Australian kid that just got fucking stabbed in the jungle by a Japanese soldier with a bayonet, I'm sorry, but it's a waste of life. Fucking waste of life. So that's why I come. That's why I come, so they're remembered. So they didn't die on a shitty hill for nothing. They got me crying. But sometimes you'll get like just generic things on the headstones from the government or whatever. But this one, I read the description first, and then I read his age. It says, a good life, a noble end, fondly remembered and missed by all. Mother, a noble end. He's fucking 17 years old, and the one next to him is 20, and the one next to him is 18. He's 22, he's 24, and he's 21. He's 21. Fucking... I'm crying, I know, and I'm in a war cemetery, but they died in the fall of Singapore. I don't expect everybody to come here and see history. Singapore's a massive transit destination, it's a holiday destination. But especially if you're Australian, you should come check these places out. You don't have to go trek up the mountain like I did. They cost me 20 bucks in a taxi to come to the cemetery and come see them. But there's thousands of Australians and British soldiers in here, and they are forgotten by history. There is one little sign here that's cool, and this is the last little bit of history on it before I go somewhere else, to the Alexandra Hospital. But in 1943, after this place fell, was occupied, there's fucking hundreds of thousands of Australian troops taken prisoner. They're sent all over the Pacific for forced labour. A few Australians, 23 of them, came on a submarine from Western Australia. They left the submarine on the outskirts of Singapore, and they took little rowing boats and they came into the harbour, and they put limpet mines, these little like sticky mines, on some ships and blew up some ships. None of them died, they all got away with it. I think they got a bit too brave because they did it again. And the second time they did it, it was very brave of them, getting their own back. But they got caught and they were executed down the road. All of them. But hey, they got a little bit of revenge, right? I must be the only human in history that's just paid $50 in a taxi to come to a hospital when I'm not injured or visiting someone that's ill. But I'm in the grounds of Alexandra Hospital, which was the site of gonna get done on YouTube for this, a horrific massacre by the Japanese army here. But, this was the British military hospital that's behind me. And this area ended up becoming the front line. And this section of the battle was controlled by the Indian troops and the Malaysian troops. And you had the British troops just on the other side of the road over there, but they kept their sectors divided. But I'll show you in a minute, on the rooftops over there, the Japanese were everywhere, all around here. The British were surrounded. I say British, but I mean all the different countries involved under the British Army. But some Indian soldiers fired on the Japanese from the rooftop over here, just on the road there. And on the other side of the road, a Japanese division walked in front of a British anti-aircraft gun that was firing at planes in the sky. They saw the Japanese soldiers and then aimed it down the road and absolutely obliterated them. The Japanese were very angry, especially one getting shot at from a hospital, and they just lost so many troops in the battle around this area. In a few days, the British would surrender and it was over. But I've spoken a lot about this already, but in this hospital, 300 staff and patients were murdered by the Japanese. They came in and just started bayoneting people. They started, people on surgeons doing operations, they just started bayoneting the troops during surgery. It's a complete war crime, and they all got away with it. But the commander of the Japanese forces here eventually was hung at a war crimes tribunal, but the soldiers that did this, because they were fired upon, they argued that they had a right to attack the hospital. But a guy from the hospital just tried to show me where the Alexandra Hospital, just tried to show me where the memorials are. I've come here specifically to see this. I've always wanted to come here. It's a weird place to want to come, but I've wanted to see the site of what happened here, and it's very horrific. There's a lot more stories about what happened here that I'll tell you in a minute, but let me try and find these memorials. Just pause it and read it, but it's telling you what I just told you. 300 patients and staff. 300 patients and medical staff were killed over 2 days by Japanese troops when they attacked the hospital on the 14th of Feb 1942. It's good that it's remembered, and it does tell you here, the largest and most awful massacre of British troops in World War II. Within a short 30-second span, 3 platoons from a Japanese battalion rained bullets at the hospital and captured more than 200 hospital personnel and patients. After they'd captured the hospital and massacred everyone inside, they took all the staff and hid them, or they kidnapped them, tied their hands up, put them in some sheds for a couple of days, and then took them out one by one and bayoneted them. I have no words but bad, so I won't say anything. So I found the plaque that I wasn't looking for. The guy that works at the hospital, I walked in and was like, I'm not injured, I come for the history. He got his phone out and showed me where that one was, but I've had to crawl through the bushes to find that one. But it's horrific what happened here, and I'm not slagging off Japan, but I am in 1942, because bastards, man. They didn't give a fuck, they were just evil. In the battles around, I ran out of space, hence the cut. But, in the battles around here, the Japanese forces that were coming up the road, you can't see the road, but they put human shields ahead of them, and they put civilians from here, they used them as human shields to approach the hospital. They didn't care about anyone basically. Even the Japanese army didn't care about the Japanese. They would kill their own troops. Like it was just a different way of thinking. But they believed they were superior to everyone else, and they wanted to be the Asiatic empire, and they would overthrow the whole of Asia because Western empires were invading lands that they thought belonged to them, and they were the superior Asian, and they should dominate everything, and they were willing to kill and put to the sword anybody that opposed them. And that's what they did. And in this hospital behind me, it was Australian women that were the nurses here who were assaulted and killed and viciously massacred by those forces. And they all fucking got away with it, man. I'm really happy about the anti-aircraft gun that blew those cunts to smithereens. Fucking people think I'm crazy, but I just want to spoke to the security and the lobby, asking them where this plaque is, and they don't know, and I still can't find it. But this is the hospital. The hospital's huge, to be honest, and it extends further that way. But after the Japanese had massacred all the nurses in here, like they do, the survivors they took to something called a block. I don't know if that is the block, but it says they were taken to a shed and killed, and they were bayoneted one by one outside of the shed. But that's probably where it happened. There was only a few survivors from the massacre as well. Once they realised they were tied up, but they were taken out in pairs out of that shed, which I think is the same shed, and were taken out to be bayoneted because the Japanese didn't want to waste their ammo. But cruel cunts. Anyway, can't help myself. But 5 nurses managed to escape, and they ran away, and they ran to the British forces and told them what was going on, and the British were in the midst of surrendering anyway. But the British commander did not know what had happened here when he decided to surrender. But he knew that things like that would happen. Japan had done horrible things in China, in Nanking, hundreds of thousands of civilians killed. He didn't want that to happen to Singapore. And they were out of food, they had 24 hours of water. They outnumbered the Japanese 3-1, but Japan would have just bombarded the shit out of them. Even the Japanese commander was surprised they surrendered, and he tried to get them to do as quick as possible before the British realised they were actually, they had the advantage. But they surrendered, and they lost. And I'm not going to go and visit anywhere else today. I was going to. There's a place down the road where the Malaysians held up, and they fought to the last man to protect the road leading to the hospital. And I know, so a lot of it's just me talking in places, but these are historic places. And there's one Malaysian officer. He was the last officer to survive. All his men were killed that were wounded when they eventually surrendered, and the Japanese tied him up in a hessian sack, hung him from a tree, and then bayoneted him. His name was Officer Adnam. I don't know his first name, but they didn't fucking treat people well. I made it back to the city. I just got a taxi from Alexandra Hospital, and the taxi driver was just like, "Oh, do you work here?" I was like, "No, I'm on holiday. I came to see the history of the place." And he was like, "What the fuck?" And he proceeded to then give me the rundown on the whole of Singaporean history and World War II. He knew everything. It was quite mad. Gave me loads of places to go to, which I haven't been to yet, but the city is lovely. He was telling me these are the old colonial buildings, which are pretty nice. But I feel like a twat recording in the street, but I'll never see these people ever again. But there are so many more places to see here, which I'll try and check out. But for now, I'm going to get a beer, sit in the pub, and then edit this video. I wanted to go and see the Fort Siloso, which is one of the fortresses that Britain had built to face the other side. But people will probably like to see my face as I'm recording and being like, "Oh, what the fuck?" Because my camera's broken, so I have to record the other way around, so I look like an absolute twat. Anyway, going to the pub, Kenneth out.